Hi, and welcome to the Red Tunic Podcast, a podcast where I look to rediscover what makes gaming fun and enjoyable by having positive conversations with those related to the industry. My name is Link, and today I'm joined by Ace, currently solo developing Aikode. Hi, Ace. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm pretty fine. Thanks for inviting me here. And yeah, well, I'm happy.
Well, Ace, thank you so much for joining me. As I said, I really appreciate you making the time, and I'm happy to hear that you are happy to be here. Always happy to hear that. Happy's been said too many times. I'm gonna stop. Or it becomes a useless word. So, Ace, before we jump into it, if you don't mind, do you mind telling me and anyone who's listening a little bit about yourself so we just have a better idea of who you are?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm Ace. That's not my real name, obviously, but yeah, that's how everyone calls me. I'm 22 years old, and yeah, I'm solo developing Aikode, as you said. And I think, well, I'm from Spain, Spanish, and I think that's everything about myself. Like, I don't think, yeah, I think that's all.
All right. So, I didn't know you were 22, and that's to me that's pretty wild. And why I should be careful how I say that because a lot of devs, indie devs are putting out some amazing work now, and a lot of them are younger, which is fantastic. Just because like when you look at iCode, for example, the influences from Nier or just other like Japanese combat games or just combat games in general, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
it's wild to see such high level of what's the word I want to use? It's wild to see like it being so high level or put together or what have you. So that's just great. Like that's wild to hear that you're 22 and you're producing or working on and putting out what looks like a fantastic project. Um,
I mean, thanks. I mean, I think it doesn't depend most of the time in the age. That's also the reason why I don't want to tell my age sometimes because a lot of people use them nowadays, right? A lot of people use their age just to make their work more like better. I don't know how to say this, but there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm only 15 or 16 or I don't know 20 years old and I'm doing an amazing work. It's like they put that in the bio and you think, oh my god, this is amazing because they are 20 years old. Um, but I don't like to do that because I prefer everyone judging my work only with the work, not the age, right? That's why I don't usually talk about myself because I prefer people just judging like the actual work and not who is doing that, right? Um, and a lot of people nowadays prefer to join the two things. I don't know why. Um, but yeah, just something that I noticed a lot in the industry, and to me it doesn't make a lot of sense because in a way, if you start, for example, I started doing like 3D stuff 4 years ago, I think. So I've been having the 4 years of experience. So it doesn't matter my age because I started 4 years ago. Uh, so in a way, I think obviously in terms of game dev, I started like 9 months ago, I guess. In terms of more like programming and all of that stuff. But in terms of the 3D and the art, that it's like the most beautiful in a way thing in iCode. Well, I started 4 years ago, so I have a lot of experience, even if I have 22. That's why, to me, the age nowadays that you have all this information, all these things online, and all these things doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of your skills, right? Uh, hope it makes sense. But yeah,
Yes, I understand completely what you're saying, and you're also like I understand the whole package, because I believe, I have and many other probably have seen people using their age as like a qualifier or as like a quantifier
yeah,
of something. Whereas,
yeah,
you avoid that because you don't want to use that and have it people be like, "Oh wow, you're only 22. This is amazing." And I
exactly.
apologize, that wasn't meant to be pandering when I
No, no,
did
no, no.
that.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying. I mean, I understand your
Mhm.
reaction, but most of the people have that reaction. To me. That's why it's not a problem, right? But it's like something that I prefer to avoid in terms of my work, because I prefer people just judging the work, right? I said my age this time because obviously I'm talking about myself. So I don't, I'm not saying that your reaction is bad or something like that. It's the normal reaction. That's why I prefer to avoid it, because if you do that in the general public, you're going to have like articles saying this 22-year-old guy doing this, right? It's like they are putting, this etiquette or something. They are putting that in there, and it's like just because you are that age, it's something different. I don't really like that idea. It's like I prefer to be like just someone hidden, like in a way, right? It's like the reaction
Yeah.
of people. Yeah, it's your reaction is normal, and I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I don't care. I don't really care about that, right? Um, it's more that I prefer to the general public when they see my work, when they go to my Twitter, they find my Twitter, my TikTok, or whatever, right? And they see the game. They just see the game. They see the name, and at least the only thing they say is like it's solo developed by Ace, right? That's the only thing they can find, and that way they only judge like the actual game. It's like a game made by a company. It's like they don't even like, they focus on the important thing, not in my age or not in my face, right? They focus on on what I think is the important thing, right? And it's to me that's more important. But I'm not saying your reaction is bad or something like that. It's the normal reaction, and I understand the reaction because I had that reaction like long time when I find some people that is super young or younger than me doing amazing thing. I'm like, oh, that guy is actually 16 and he's doing amazing things. So that I guess that's the human reaction. I'm just saying that I prefer to avoid that in terms of marketing, right? If it makes sense, because I prefer to people, to have like to focus on the game, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I completely understand what you're saying there because, you want people to be interested in the game. You want people to pick up the game, try the game, what have you, because of what the game is offering, not because of the age of the person associated with it. Because, we can, in all honesty, when I was younger, for a school project, I made a small game. And
Oh,
the it wasn't a good game, and I'm very clear on that. It was not a good game,
you
and
had
I would have. Oh, sorry.
the tools at that time were like completely different, I guess. Like if we are talking, like I don't know how much years it was, like how many years it was when you created this game.
Oh man. So I can say this. I don't remember the exact. It was one of my years in high school, and I want to say I was 16 at the time. We
Oh.
used a programming language called Turing. Um, and Turing, if I don't expect anyone to know what Turing is. I don't even expect it
I
to
don't know.
exist anymore. It was a very straightforward language.
Yeah.
But when we were using it, it didn't have it didn't have anything to process sprites. It didn't have anything to process animations. That was in the future versions, they
Oh
assured
my
us.
god.
So, when I say it wasn't very good, it was because it wasn't made to do what we were trying to do with it.
Yeah.
And in our case, it was trying to make like a Mario clone, and I wrote the sprite works for it, so it would actually animate the sprites, process the sprite sheets, all of this fun stuff. But like a lot of it, like it just did not function very well. One of the things we
But
we cheated and said the platforms were icy because sometimes if you caught the edge of it, it would throw you off and you would fall through. So there were a lot of things that just didn't work. But what I'm getting at is, I would have been. I understand what you're saying because I would have been upset if someone was like, "Oh yeah, this 16-year-old kid made this game," and it's like, well, it was a garbage game. I don't like. I don't
yeah.
want my age associated with that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a bad
exactly.
game. So like you don't want someone to be like this 22-year-old made this amazing game. You just want someone to say
Yeah,
Ace made
even if
this
it's
amazing
amazing.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just this creator. I mean, that's the thing. I don't even say like normally. Like if you go to my Twitter or Instagram, you can even find where am I, right? Like I'm from Spain, as I said, because I mean I understand that this podcast is more like personal, so I prefer it to be more like personal in a way. And leave aside my game for now and talk about myself or the things I like. So that's why I said like my age and everything, where I'm from, and even that there is a funny story. So I don't say I'm from Spain normally. You go to my Twitter, like the only thing you can find is Ace. You go to my Instagram, Ace, Europe, Ace, and that's it, right? Even in the trailers, the only thing you can find is Ace. So I'm actually from Spain, and there are some articles in Spain, right? And one of the articles actually thought that I was Japanese, and they put like in the article they put like Ace is a young Japanese solo developing Aikode. I'm like, and I actually, when I saw that, I was like, no, no, that's not true. And I like messaged the guy who who did the article. And I was like, I'm actually from Spain. I'm actually from here. I read the article. You know, I'm from Spain, right? So yeah, most of the people, that's the fun thing, I guess, that they don't know what I'm who am I, right? And I prefer that. I prefer that, at least for now, because that way they can only judge the product, and it's not something that I prefer, honestly. And what you were saying about, right, about the game that you created at that time, that it was not really good. I mean, it makes sense because we are talking about different, and that is also connected to the age, right? It's also different, a different age. It's a different. We're in a different moment right now. You have tools like a lot of engines that are amazing. Not only Unreal Engine, but even Unity is really good, and even Godot, right? You have a lot of like completely open engines for you, and you have more languages. You have more tools even for 3D. You have Blender that it's completely free. You have tools for texturing. You have tools for rendering. You have tools for almost everything. Tools that maybe like I don't know, 20 years ago, or not 20, but 10 years ago, or yeah, 10 years ago, it wasn't that good, everything. Like the tools that you had like 10 years ago, because I remember actually when I was 13 years old, I tried to do something in Unity, and it wasn't that good, to be honest. I mean, my skills were really bad, but everything was more tedious in a way. Everything was tedious. It wasn't as easy as it is right now. So I also think that we have a lot of more like young developers and young artists right now because everything is more easy in a way, right? Everything is more accessible, and there is a lot of more information, more tutorials. If you go to YouTube or even in a forum, you can find a lot of things. A lot of even your question has been asked like thousands of times, most of the time, right? So there is a lot of things that maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I don't know, you had all of this was more complicated. So making a game like in the past, right, it was more like tedious, complicated. The tools were more hard to understand. Everything was more complicated, and everything was slower too. Slower machines, slower, everything was bad in a way to solo develop a game. I think solo developing a game or making a game or you know uh, whatever, even doing an animation, it's easier nowadays with all these tools and all these amazing things. So I also think that's the reason why we have a lot of young developers and young creators and young artists right now. I think that's the main reason.
Hmm. And I understand. I agree completely. That, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because you have technology getting good. When I
Yeah,
see it, when I see younger people, or just more people in general, I should say, not just not to not focus on the age portion, but
yeah,
more
yeah,
people working on games and such. I think it's fantastic because the bigger the indie market, the more we're going to see passion projects, the more we're going to see
absolutely.
people working on things they they love, that they are inspired by, without the constraints of you know I'll use EA as an example, without the constraints as a big publisher, having to figure out how they're going to allocate all their money, how, if whether or not it's going to be a money making venture, or if they're willing to take a risk on something that's not as known or as a new
Yeah,
IP. So I love seeing all of the newer developers, the newer creators, putting stuff out there, just because, like I said, it's I like indie games, and I like the indie scene, and a healthy indie scene in my mind is a great thing to see what
yeah,
what gets created
yeah,
now.
yeah. It's amazing. I agree with you. I didn't say anything of this like in a bad way. I'm just saying like as an information, like as a fact, right? That it's more easier for everyone accessing all these tools right nowadays, and it's good. It's good because I mean that's the main reason why I'm here, and that's the main reason why I'm doing this game, right? It's the main reason why everything happened. So you know, it's really good. Like everything that's been happening in the game dev industry, all these amazing tools, all these things that help people, and even the community, right? Everyone's everyone is helping more, and you can find a lot of information. So yeah, it's definitely something really good, and it's amazing to see all these indie games and all these people doing passion projects for real. Yeah.
Exactly. And speaking of people getting into, the more people making games and such, Ace, can you talk about how you got into developing and making games?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I started doing 3D stuff. That's the main reason why code looks like, and that's something that a lot of people talk about, even in articles and things. That it looks beautiful in a way, right? It looks like polished in the terms of art, right? In the artistic department, if that makes sense. Um, the main reason why it's like that is because I'm actually an artist. I'm a 3D generalist, basically. So I cover like most of the 3D fields, right? Basically, well, texturing, animation, modeling, uh, compositing, well, rigging, UVs, everything, right? So I come from all those fields, and I actually been doing that for 4 years. So I have all those skills in terms of 3D, and I have that 3D view, I guess. So I started with that, and maybe like when I decided to make Aikode, I was actually searching for some people to help me in the programming department, right? Because I wanted to do all the art, and maybe some people do the programming of the game, right? And I had like I think 3 teams. I had 3 teams, and all of them failed. The main reason is because I didn't have the money. Makes sense. I didn't have money, and therefore the groups failed because a rep share is not a good idea sometimes. I mean, it's not a good incentive, at least. Um, so at that point, when the third group failed, I was like, okay, I guess I need to make the game myself, because if not, it's not going to work. I mean, I have all these 3D models. I've been working like I guess for 1 year on all these 3D models, and I need to make the game. I mean, it is the game of like my dreams, right? I'm like, I need to make it. And that's the point where I decided to, you know, start the programming of the game in Unreal Engine. And well, the cool thing about Unreal Engine is actually you have like blueprints, right? So it's a better way if you're an artist. It's a good way to introduce you to the engine and to code stuff, because if you're an artist, normally you are more used to nodes, and basically blueprints are nodes. So it's really straightforward when you start. And I decided to start with the movement, then start with something else. Like I decided to learn the engine doing the game, right? So obviously at the start, a lot of the things that I did was completely wrong, but then I started to learn, and I also decided to learn, some code to optimize things like C++ in Real. And well, I decided to learn a bit everything, and I've been doing that for 9 months, I guess. Right now it's more than 9 months. I guess it's 10 months. I don't know, but almost a year programming, right? Um, and well, the main reason was because all the groups failed. That's the true answer. Because if some of I didn't want to, because I was scared. I was scared about the programming part. I was scared about the game dev part, I guess, as an artist. So I decided to, jump in the pool just because there was, it was the only option, right? So yeah, I guess that's the story.
And that makes perfect that makes perfect sense. Like you know, uh, I'm trying to think of a dumb analogy for it, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, screw it, I'll just do it myself, kind of thing. But that's a little
Yeah.
too aggressive in this scenario, because it wasn't like you did it at a point of anger. You did it at a point of like, just the reality of the situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit hungry, to be honest. I was when all these groups failed. I was like, I was at a low point at that point. I was like, maybe I won't be able to finish that game. I was like actually not I don't know, I was sad even like I was like thinking I won't be able to create the game. Like at that point, I was like a hit, like a reality check, right? It was like something that I was like, no, this can be. I need to create this. I mean, I was created for this. um, so at that point, I was like, I decided to jump in the pool even without any acknowledgement. In a way, I was angry. I was angry at the groups, but I understand why everything happened. I mean, there was no money, but I didn't understand why all of the groups failed, right? I mean, because in a way, all of them knew that there wasn't money. Like, I was like, it's going to be a rep share. I don't have the money. I don't have the funding. So for now, maybe in the future we can have funding, but for now we need to work in this. In you know, we need to believe, right? Um, so it will be a rev share, or you will have money when we get funding, and everyone agrees on that. Everyone was okay. That's completely okay, and I was like, well, that's working. But then I saw like how everything was like. I was like there just looking at a guy trying to make a mechanic for fishing, right? Secondary mechanic in Aikode is fishing, obviously, as every Japanese game, RPG game, right? So the fishing mechanic was taking like 1 month, 1 month for a fishing mechanic, and I was like, no, no, this can't be. I mean, if we are taking 1 month for the fishing mechanic, then the combat is going to take like I don't know, like 5 months, 1 year. Like the game is not going to be finished like in 10 years. It's going to be 10 years of development. So at that point, I was like, I need to do it myself because if not, this game is going to take like I don't know 10 years, and when I launch the game, it's going to be outdated. So this is not working. So in a point, I was a bit. There was a bit of sadness and also like I was a bit angry, I guess. But it wasn't the fault of them. It was like, but I lost a lot of years doing that. So I guess what I learned is for all the people that are watching or listen in this case, it's like you know, even if you're scared about that, right? Even if you're scared about anything, like even if it's not programming, even if for example it's 3D or whatever, everything. Even if you're scared, try it because in the end I did all of that video that I posted on Twitter that I was like a lot of things in 9 months. I did all of that programming in 9 months, and I lost like 2 years of my life trying to find a group to do that, and I did it in 9 months. So in a way, I was wrong. Like searching for groups, I needed to learn that, right? So my I guess my word of wisdom, right, is to um, basically try it, jump into the pool. Even if there is no water, jump into the pool and try it. I mean, what is the wrong that can happen? Like, I guess sometimes you need to go ahead and try this stuff and whatever it is. And if it doesn't work, well, you at least you tried. And if it works, amazing, because you're not going to lose like 2 years like me, and the game will be out sooner. So yeah, I guess that's my recommendation or what I've learned, right?
And I think that's fantastic words of wisdom. Just jump in, just give it a try. Because
Yeah,
you might learn that you actually really have a penchant to be able to do things, or the ability, that you didn't know existed, and you can make it work, right? So that's fantastic to hear.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm glad that worked out for you in the end. I know it sounds like it was a rough road, but it sounds like as
Yeah,
well that at the end of the day, it's working for you, and that's the important part. So I'm happy for you on that one.
thanks. Yeah, 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 absolutely.
So what? Now I'm gonna kind of change the pace a little on this one, or not really the pace, I guess. Change the move it along somewhere else. Uh, but you know, obviously your game has influence from something like Nier or other Japanese games. I read somewhere that someone, I don't know if that was a quote from you. The article wasn't in English, so that's on me because I. But there was, a reference as well to, inspirations that look like from Devil May Cry, which I agree with from what I've seen as well. A good combat system. Uh,
Yeah.
what? what was the game that made you want to make games, and what was it about that game that you found the most enjoyable?
Well, hard to say. Hard to say because well, Icode or the thing. Well, Icode is my first game, right? So the thing that made Icode, I guess, is a lot of games. As you've said, like there is a lot of Japanese games influence, right? And obviously a Nier Automata, Nier in general influence. Obviously, it's pretty obvious. But I guess there is a lot of other games that are. I mean, there wasn't a game. It was like a. The main reason why I did it is because there wasn't a game for me. Like all of the games that I played, some of them has amazing mechanics, some of them has amazing like combat, amazing an amazing relationship mechanics, an amazing story, an amazing soundtrack, or an amazing thing. And but the point was, all of the games like I was playing that game and I was like, why this game doesn't have what this game have, and this game have like what this game has, like connect all these mechanics in a way. And that's how I created Aikode. Basically, the main reason why I created Aikode was because of my frustration when I was playing games, and I was like, no, that's not what I want. I want this with this. I want this connected with this, and this with this, right? And and that's the main reason why I created Aikode was because I decided to connect a lot of other games, right? So I was like, I want, for example, the fluidity and the amazing animations and all of this in the combat from Nier Automata or Devil May Cry, right? But then I want something different for the style, or I want something different for the animations cutscene. So I want like a flight system. The flight system was actually inspired by Anthem, and a lot of people noticed that. Um, I really liked the flight system in Anthem. I was like, I need to grab this, and I'm going to put in my game like this. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to put it that's it. And then I was like, I want some cool customization, right? I want, having like different outfits that actually change like completely different styles of outfits. Connect that with the combat, right? And then I was like, I want the menus. I want something like Persona 5, right? These dynamic menus with animations, with things. So I decided to add that too. And then I was like, I want um, uh, the Yakuza interaction. I think the thing that I love about, for example, the Yakuza games is that you have a lot of interaction with the areas. You can enter in some places and play like arcade or dance in karaoke or something like this, right? And I liked that a lot in terms of secondary content, so I added that too. Then another thing that I love, for example, for the Persona saga is that same thing, and also the relationships. The relationship system is something that it's in a way pretty simple, but it works really well. And I was like, I need to add this. I need to add this, but with the style of my game. So I'm gonna add this too, right? And it was like this. I was just grabbing the things that I liked the most from every game and combining all of them in one game, which is quite ambitious and it's quite complicated. But it's something that I wanted to add. For example, another thing that I really liked, for example, the level design in Gravity Rush, a game that I love in terms of level design. Like the cities are amazing. The verticality in there is amazing. So I was like, I need to add something like this, but then combine it with interaction of Yakuza. So like a Yakuza combined with Gravity Rush, and then combine that the combat with Devil May Cry or Nier. And I was like, I need to add all of this in a way that makes sense. So that's the main reason how I created Aikode. It's just a combination of a lot of things, obviously quite ambitious, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there, and that's something that I wanted to add. Obviously, there is a lot of things, a lot of mechanics, a lot of stuff going on, but that's something that I really like it about. It's really the game of my dreams. It's not an exaggeration when I say this. It's like it's really the game I dreamed is this. It's like my favorite game is probably Aikode, right? Uh, that's that's how it works because it's basically all the games that I love in one game, right? All the mechanics that I love from the games I love in one game. So yeah, a lot of inspirations, but I guess there was a game in a way that actually the last game I played, like uh, the last game I played was I think the Nier Automata game, like a second playthrough that I did. So I played the game, I guess, in 2017, I guess, and then I played again on PC on 20, 18 or something like that. And I was like, at that point, I had that experience in terms of animation, right? At that point, I had like that 3D view, that 3D experience, that I was able to notice things that I didn't notice in terms of technical point of view, uh, that I didn't notice when I played the game. And something that I really liked was the animations. The animations of Platinum games are amazing. Not only like there is a lot of detail in everything. I was like the combos are like it's beautiful. Everything how it's seamlessly connected and everything. It's like it was amazing. So I was like I want to make something like this. So I decided to go back and to my characters, right? And I was like, I want to add this character that I made with some animations and see everything in real time, right? So that's what I did. I decided to grab the character, animate some animations, and added that in real time in a game engine, right? So at that point, I didn't have like a clear vision that I wanted to make like a game. No, I mean I always wanted to make a game, but a part of me was like thinking this is impossible. I created a game me alone. No, I think that's not possible, right? So when I started doing that, I didn't have like the idea of creating the game. It was just me playing around because I played like with Nier Automata and I love the animations and I was like, I'm gonna grab this and I want to do something similar just to see how my character looks in real time because obviously that's something that you don't have in the rest of 3D apps. Nothing is real time, right? So I was just curious, and from there I started my journey. So I guess the game that impulsed me, the last game that impulsed me, the drop of water falling in the glass, the last drop of water was actually Nier Automata. That's also the main reason why it's a lot of similarities in terms of the movement and in terms of the animation and in terms of the combat. It looks pretty similar to Nier Automata because that was the impulse in terms of the animations, right? That was the last rocket, I guess, that it started everything. But as I said, if we are talking about the general game, there is a lot of inspirations, a lot of things, and a lot of games. So it's not just Nier or just Devil May Cry. It's just there is a lot of things. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that. And that I understand that, because from what you're saying, it's not just a single game that made you want to do this. It was you playing
Yeah.
all these other games and wanting more from all these other games, right? And that's,
Exactly.
I imagine that's pretty common in some way or another, and that's really really fun to hear of, where you were pulling all sorts of things from. Like, for example, when you mentioned the flight mode in Anthem, I was looking at one of the little gifs or what have you of the flight, and I see it. It makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting to hear how all that works. Now, I am curious because you talk about all these influences that went into this game. Um, so I don't know if this one is going to be a potential influence or not. However, was there a game from your childhood that you really enjoyed that you don't think would hold up today?
I mean, there is a game I think it holds up today in most ways. I don't want to get killed because I'm going to say something and maybe people are going to kill me, right? Uh, but there is a game that I enjoyed a lot when I was a child. Uh, and some things in the game don't hold up today, and I think everyone can agree on that. But it still holds up pretty well, and it's actually Kingdom Hearts 1, right? Kingdom Hearts 1. And I know I'm going to get killed because of this, because a lot of people love the game and they're going to be like, no, what is he saying, right? But no, I mean, that's the game that I most remember from my childhood, right? It's probably, I played that game hundreds of times, like, and that was my main contact when I when I saw like the opening cutscene that it was like CG cutscene looking amazing. I was like, oh my god, what is this? Because at that point that was my first RPG that I played, the first Japanese RPG in general. I played the game pretty young, so I was impressed by everything. I was like really impressed when you grab the weapon and you fight this big boss that is amazing and big, and then you go to a place that is like super calm and you can swim. And I was like, what? You can do everything in this game. This is amazing. You can climb trees. You can swim. you can walk. Like, what is this, right? So for me, it was something completely new. I mean, it was nothing new if you compare it to other RPGs, but to me, it was new, right? And I have a lot of good memories about that game. Obviously, if I go back and play it nowadays, there are a lot of things that I hate, but I really hate a lot of things. Like, there are things in the combat that it's like, it's some of the things that are like, oh my god. And then there are some walls that I really hate. Like, there are some walls, like there's this Aladdin world. I don't understand why it's there, and I don't understand why the Aladdin wall is in all the games, because for some reason that boring world, and I'm probably going to get hated because of this, but the wall is boring. I really hate the world. That Aladdin world. And I actually have friends that played the game, like decided to give it a try, right? The game, the Kingdom Hearts one, right? And I was like, yeah, try it and see what you think about the game. And they were like playing the game pretty fine, everything. And there was a point, and that they decided to leave the game, and it was in the Aladdin world. For some reason, that world has something that it's like, I really hate that world, and some of my friends actually think the same thing. So I think I'm not the only one in here, right? And and the thing is, for some reason, that wall is in all the Kingdom Hearts that I played, or most of them. It's like, I don't understand why, but it's in there. Always is in there, and I really hate it. I hate the music. I hate everything. It's something that I can't play it anymore, and and I guess it holds up in some things. Like, there are some things, for example, there are some animations that are looking really nice. Some of the graphics, some of the walls really look really amazing. Some of the mechanics are really interesting. So I'm not saying it's a bad game nowadays. It holds up in a lot of ways, but there are other things that are more tedious, especially some things in the combat. Some walls are a bit boring. It's not the same the play that I came when I was, you know, I don't know, 8 years old, 7 years old. For me, that was like the epitome of game. It was amazing. And now, if I play it now, it's like, yeah, I mean, I can see some things that are not perfect, but I'm not saying it's like bad. To me, it's still a pretty good game, but it's yeah, it's different from what I remember, right?
So, I agree with you. I think the simplest answer is I agree with you. A lot of people, myself included, I have this like nostalgic hold to Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah,
Um, and if my personal opinion is that it was very, very clunky. It was a very rough game.
yeah, yeah,
It wasn't bad. It was just very clunky, very, very rough. And I think the problem probably is that most people that played Kingdom Hearts 1 also played Kingdom Hearts 2. And when
yeah,
you think back on Kingdom Hearts 1, you're also you're also mixing in Kingdom Hearts 2. So like you're thinking, oh yeah, the combat was smooth. It had all this nice stuff, all this whatever, whatever,
yeah,
whatever. And then you play Kingdom Hearts 1, you're like, everything I was thinking was Kingdom Hearts 2. That was my
yeah,
case, and I don't want to
yeah,
speak
yeah.
for
Same.
others, but yeah, exactly. I was gonna say I would not be
Yeah,
shocked if that was largely the issue. Is that everything good you remembered about those two, about it on PlayStation, was Kingdom Hearts 2, not Kingdom Hearts
yeah, yeah,
1.
absolutely.
It was 2, right? Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I understand what you're saying. I agree completely. I tried replay. Well, I did replay it a while back, um,
yeah,
and yeah, it was very frustrating having to deal with just how janky it was when your memory was trying to tell you, oh no, it was fine, and then you get to, like I said, you open up Kingdom Hearts 2 and you're like, oh, this is what my memory was doing. Thank you. I appreciate you, brain. You screwed me over.
yeah. I can feel that. Yeah,
So, is you mentioned a lot of stuff when it came to the what sorry, yeah, I'm throwing myself off here for some reason. You mentioned a lot of stuff, influences and such for Icode, as well as what you enjoyed when it came to um, you know what you would like, what game made you want to get into developing. Sorry, I was trying to think of how to like segue that and was screwing it up and kept tripping over myself. Um, so to try and maybe narrow that focus down a little, is there something about gaming that you enjoy specifically or the most? And what would that, what would it be about gaming that makes you enjoy it or makes it enjoyable to you?
Yeah. Actually, this is pretty easy to answer. Um, Especially if I compare games to, other type of media, like, movies, show, or animes or whatever. Like, if I compare it to that, there is something that I really like about games. So when you watch a show, for example, or a movie, right? And you have this beautiful world, right? You have these amazing, beautiful worlds, and everything looks amazing, and you're like, oh my god, this is beautiful. And there is like an alley or something. There is like this city and this interesting place, and the camera doesn't go there. Like the camera just goes to the main thing because it's a movie, and you can go to wherever you want. But it's like I want to go there. That looks interesting. Or I want to talk to that person right there. But no, obviously it's a movie, so you can do that. Or a show, you can do that. It's basically the camera goes forward and just records everything, and that's it. But in games, especially when you talk about RPGs, normal RPGs or Japanese RPGs, um, you have a lot of freedom related to this, right? You have the world and it's amazing, it's beautiful, but you can go wherever you want. You can go to the alley, you can enter in that house, you can enter in a lot of places, and you can interact with a lot of things, and then you can talk to that NPC that looks interesting, and that's something that I love, like being able to explore these worlds that are like beautiful, these cities that are beautiful in a different way that you can't in different media. That's something that I really like about games. I know there's like the combat things, but the thing that I enjoy the most, I guess, I think is the exploring part in those games. Story is really cool. The combat is amazing. I love all of that. But the thing that I love the most, I think, is the exploring part and being able to, you know, enter in all these places and waste time, look at the scenery from every point of view with the camera. That's something that I really love, like having the freedom to actually, explore these worlds in a way that you can't in other media. So yeah, I think that's what I enjoy the most in games.
And yeah, I completely understand what you mean by that. I think a lot of people can relate is that like the interactivity of just the game itself, because I know some people they like more systems, they like all the interactivity. Some people like less, they want it to be more straightforward. But at the end
Yeah,
of the day, like the ability to participate and feel like you have some agency or have the ability to be like, oh, I want to know what that looks like from there instead. Like if you just see it in a movie, you're like, well, you just see whatever the camera was facing, right? And so yeah, I can understand that, and I think a
yeah,
lot of other people can as well, because it makes perfect sense, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I do want to ask this one, Ace, just because I asked the question of what game you don't think holds up from your childhood. uh Now this is kind of, I think, in my mind, it's like the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
So for that other side of the coin, is there a game that you enjoy from your childhood or just in general that you don't feel gets enough credit?
Actually, I have, yeah, not only one. I have like entire sagas that I enjoy nowadays with the problems that it has every game. But uh, I think that there is a lot of games that don't get enough credit, and I'm going to say some games that probably people don't know about it. Probably they know. I don't know. I'm going to say something like, yeah. Let me go ahead. I'm going to say like probably three, not three games, maybe three sagas, I guess, of games that
Sure.
I think that it's actually unknown. I think the first one is going to be pretty known in a way, but it's Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush is a game that I think doesn't have enough credit for everything that it does. Like the two games. Like I played the first one on the PS Vita, and the fact that you can play the game on the PS Vita is the first amazing thing about the game. But the game actually, like the way the areas are, like everything is so detailed. Like there's nothing procedural. You can see that the actual areas are. It's not just a field of flowers. No, it's actually a city that is actually flying and it's actually hanging from things, and it's crazy. It's actually the fact that you can fly over all these places and all these things is it's actually crazy. And and the mechanics are really good too. Some of them are a bit clunky, especially in the first one, but it's actually really good. Like people don't give enough credit compared to other games, and like why this doesn't have more why it's not bigger? Like that's something that is really sad. And now there is not going to be more sequels, and there is not going to be more games because basically, well, the studio is not there anymore. So basically, Sony decided to not, you know, uh, do more games about this game, and they decided to basically delete the game. So there is no more games about this saga, and it's something that is really sad for me. It's actually a big inspiration for some things in Aikode. So for me, it's like something that I really loved, and people. I mean, there's a lot of people that know the game, but not a lot compared to other games, and I think it needs enough more credit, right? Okay, now that I say the game that is more popular, I'm going to talk about two other games or two sagas that nobody knows about. So yeah, let me go ahead. The first one, I mean, a lot of people. I mean, there are some people that probably know about this, but there is a saga that it's called Trails of. I really like this saga for a lot of reasons. It's a big. First of all, it's a really long saga. It's a Japanese RPG saga that it's really long. So if you are going to play this, probably you're going to take a lot of time to finish this. But I recommend this to every Japanese, RPG fan, right? Uh, so basically, there are like I think the saga is separated into multiple sagas. It's a bit confusing, to be honest. We have like the first one is Trails of the Sky. There is like another one that is Trails of Zero or something like that, and the last one is Trails of Colest. Uh, my favorite is Trails of Colest still. Actually, I started with that too, but there is something that I really love about it, especially in Trails of Colest still. Basically, everything feels like it's like a 3D game, but it feels like an old RPG. It feels like a really old RPG, like in a good way, right? So you have like multiple towns. Like there are like 12 towns. I think in the Trails of Cold Steel 1 there are like 12 towns or something like that. It's really big, and you can enter in every house. Like there are houses in every town, and you can enter in every house, and the architecture of every town is different. So you have big cities, you have small towns, you have like towns with trains and things. There is a lot of things, and you can enter in every house. You can enter in every room of every house, which is crazy. And the craziest thing comes when it's like actually you have like NPCs in the game, right? But NPC has a name. Every NPC has a name and has a face. And every NPC has a backstory in a way. So you have actually a journal, and you can actually get the information about that NPC. It's not procedural. Every NPC is put there in for a reason, and every NPC has a backstory. And if you tag to that NPC, and this is crazy, but there's like a day system in the game. So with every day that passes, the dialogue of the NPC changes. Like every day that passes in the game, the dialogue is changing. So there are like hundreds of dialogues for every NPC, and that happens with every NPC of every town, which is crazy. And then you have like multiple, like you have even a relationship system similar to Persona. And you can even have romance or bromance if you prefer. So you have a lot of options, right? In that sense. And then you have secondary content that it's like crazy. Like the secondary missions remind me of like, games like the CD Projekt, like the Witcher games, right? Where the secondary mission is entertaining actually. So there are actually that type of secondary missions. And the fact is that they doesn't seem secondary. I mean, to be honest, nothing in this game is secondary because something can unlock like a part of the story. It's crazy. It's like you need a guide to follow the game. I'm not even kidding. You need an actual guide to follow every part of the game, right? And there are even hidden missions. So there are missions that are not marked in the map, so you can find them, and you need to talk to the NPCs, and suddenly you are going to find the mission, right? So definitely you need a guide, because if a day passes, like a day goes by, the missions disappear. There are no missions anymore because the day goes by and they don't need your help anymore. It's actually really realistic in a way, because you need to do it everything at that moment, because if not, goodbye. They don't need you. People die. People go away. It's like, that's it. Continue the story. And it actually makes sense in the actual game. how everything is linked, right? And even like the story is really complex. It seems like an anime game that it's like, you know, the typical shonen or something like that, but no, it's actually pretty political. And you don't see that in the style, but when you start the game, you start seeing that everything is pretty political, and even every part of every mini saga inside the saga, like the Trails of the Sky, Trails of, you know, Zero, Trails of Cold Steel, happens in different parts of the country, right? So you start in Trails of the Sky, it's like 3 games in one country. Then you have the Trails of Cold Steel, that is 4 games in one country. So you have all these different countries, and you experience everything from a different point of view, but all of them are connected, right? And everything is connected in the last game, right? In the Trails of Cold Steel 4. So you have all these connections going on, and it's pretty political, which is interesting. I don't really like games that are like super political, but in this case, I really like it how everything was done. Like the actual story is pretty good. Then you have the combat. It's not a turn-based combat, but it's actually turn-based. It's pretty weird because it's actually a tactical game. It's like a tactical RPG, right? Like, you know, the Final Fantasy Tactics, but in 3D. And you have that space in 3D, and you can move the character. And if you control the actual, when you learn how to play the game, the combat is actually really fun. Like, I don't usually like turn-based combats, but in this case, I really like how everything is done. It's not really turn-based, but it has, like, you know, that turn-based feel to it, right? And I really like it how everything is done. Then you have more things. You have like, in terms of secondary content, you have like different mini games. You have snowboarding, the friendship system, the romance options, all of this, and even that you have like books in the game. For example, you can buy books in the game, and you can read the book. Not the actual player. You can read the books as yourself. You can read the book. You can actually read like every page of the book, and it's not lore. It's not like, you know, Dark Souls that you can grab a book and learn about the lore of the game. No, it's actually a book inside the game that it's there. Like it's a book, like a Romeo and Juliet, like that. It's a book. It's crazy. They actually started writing like a lot of books just for this game, and I don't understand why, but there is a lot of books. There is even like a sequels for books that are in the first one. It's the amount of detail that the world has, like the world building of the world is actually pretty crazy. You don't see that in the style or when you see the game, you don't think that it's something like this, but the actual amount of work in terms of detail that it has, it's actually crazy. And then you have like, you can go with a horse, you can ride a horse, you can ride even a bike, you can have an airship and fly over all the places and go to wherever you want and kind of like free roam, right? And all of that, taking into account that you can talk to all these NPCs, and the NPCs leave the place, so they are one day they are in there, and the other day they are not going to be there, and maybe they have a mission in the other part of the country, which is crazy, right? And I really love that about the game, that it feels like an old RPG, but really big, and it's done really great, even in 3D, because they did the transition to 2D from 3D, right? The first games were like more like 2.5D, kinda. So it was like 2D combined with 3D, you know, with the camera 3D, with the sprites, something like that. Those are like the Trails of the Sky and the other one. But the Trails of Cold Steel, they did that transition to 3D, but they keep everything the same. So there's even like a food cooking system that you can cook with your partners, and you can do it bad and good. And then if you do like a bad cooking, you can sell that bad cooking to a teacher that actually it's going to give you something else. And with that something else, you can do another thing. It's crazy. Then you can go fishing, and there's like a competition of fishing inside the school. It's the amount of things that the game has. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then you have the story that is really good. So if you combine everything, the only bad side of this game are the animations. The animations are not that great. So I guess that's the only downside, especially in the 3D one. You can notice that in the Trails of Cold Steel, the animations are, you know, you can see that the studio is not super big. It's not like a super big studio, right? But if you keep everything else, like everything else is amazing. I really love that. And something that I really liked about the game, that this is crazy. I've never seen this in other game. That you have the sequel, right? You have Trails of Cold Steel, and then you have the sequel, right? That is a direct sequel. So you can grab the data of the first game, and transfer the file, the save data, to the second game. And why you want to do this? Because if you do this, it will actually remember your options for the first game. So it actually remembers the romance options that you choose. It actually remembers the friendship the amount of friendship with every main character. It remembers the NPCs you talk to, your achievements, and it actually changes the dialogue and the cutscenes depending on the options of the first game. So it's not only changing the things in the first game, it's changing the things in the second game with the first game. It's actually, to me, it's crazy. It's actually like the amount of love they put in those games. It's something that it's amazing. I understand why a lot of people don't notice these games because the graphics are not that amazing, the animations are a bit lacking sometimes, but it's really good. It's like really crazy. It's like a really amazing saga and a really amazing game, and the story is quite powerful in a lot of times, and there's a lot of characters, a lot of things, and it resembles a lot of other games that are pretty popular, right? So that's something that it's pretty sad for me because it's a saga that I love a lot, and it has problems. It has a lot of things that are not amazing, but as I said, in terms of an RPG, to me, it's probably one of my favorites. One in terms of a Japanese RPG, it feels like an old one, but good, like with current technology, right? An old one with current technology, and seeing all these towns that you can enter in everything, enter everywhere in 3D. It's something that I don't see in a lot of games nowadays, especially in RPGs. Like most of the time, it's like a big city and you can do nothing in there, and you can enter anywhere. It's like really bad. I don't really like that about the new games, right? So seeing something like this is actually beautiful, right? I know these things that I say is actually real, so it's crazy. And probably you need a guide to play this game correctly. It's pretty long. There's a lot of games, so if someone wants to try and play these games, I recommend having like a guide next to you, because if you lost just a mission, is going to destroy your whole experience. It's crazy. So I recommend having a guide unless you want to play the game multiple times. But as I said, it's like a lot of hours. We are talking about an RPG, so yeah. I prefer if someone wants to start Saga, I recommend having like the guide. So that's the second like recommendation, I guess. Games that people don't notice. And the third one is actually a game that I also love a lot. Again, a saga, right? It's kind of known, I guess. I don't know if it's known. It's to me, it doesn't feel like it's known, but some people know about it, obviously. And this saga is the Zero Escape Nonari games. I actually really like this saga because of the puzzle. It's not an RPG. It's not a Japanese RPG. It's more like it's also a Japanese game, but it's more related to it's kind of visual novel, but it's not really completely a visual novel because you have a lot of puzzles. It's actually pretty similar to to Danganronpa, to the Danganronpa game, kind of. It has kind of similar flow to the Danganronpa games. I think it's made by the same company actually, but for some reason the game is not known that much as Danganronpa, right? To me, it's better than Danganronpa, just to make clear. But it's my opinion. Uh, and the saga is like it has like 3 games. The first one is 999, 9 doors, 9 persons, 9 something else. I don't remember the last thing, but it's 999. Then you have Virtuous Last Reward, that is the second game, and then you have Zero Time Dilemma, that is the third game. Something that I like about this game is that it has a lot of I know a lot of the story actually has a lot of philosophical things, like real philosophical things going on. A lot of really interesting themes, and I really love that about 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 games and shows and movies when they go full philosophical and they go but real philosophical with actual philosophical terms, and dealing with actually interesting themes that you maybe don't know, and they explain everything like super easy. Like it's super easy to understand. You can be a kid and you can be dumb and you will be able to understand everything, which is interesting because some of the themes are actually complex. And something that I like about these games, about this saga, is not only the fact about the puzzles are really hard. To be honest, I spend like sometimes I played this game like when I was really young. Like maybe I was not really young, but I was like 16, I guess. Yeah, 16 or 15. And I played this game, and I remember wasting my time in puzzles like for 3 hours. Like 3 hours to solve the puzzle. It's like really complex. The puzzles are actually really complex, and you feel the tension and everything. It's like you need to find like the escape. You're in a room. It's like a room escape, kind of. but better. The puzzles are actually more interesting, right? And then you have like a lot of decisions going on, and every game has like multiple endings, but multiple endings that connect in a way, right? So to get the true ending, you need to explore all these multiple endings, and you can actually that's something that I love about this game. It's actually you can travel between timelines, right? So you have like this menu. It's a mechanic actually. You have this menu, and you have like different timelines in the game, right? So you can go back to the other option. You don't need to play the game to experience all the endings. You can go back to a point that you made a decision, and if you go back, the actual character kind of remembers that. Like it's the mechanic is justified in the game, right? And you go back to that point, and maybe you've been bad, you choose the wrong option, you have been a bad guy, right? You choose the bad option, and you feel bad and you go back. Something that happened to me, I choose the bad option. I decided to not trust the other because in the virtuous last reward there's something like trust and being an ally or something like that. There's like options for that. It's really complex to explain, but when you start the game it's pretty easy to understand. So basically I decided to go back, and then I noticed that I decided to choose the good option, and for some reason the other person in the other character decided to be bad. But in the timeline that I experienced, it was actually the other way around. I decided to be bad, and so the option changed because I turned back. So it's not only like, this is the crazy thing. It's not only like the timeline that it creates a new timeline, yeah, because you go back and you decided to choose the other option, and the player noticed this, like saying, no, but you actually choose the other option, the other way around. I remember that from the other timeline, right? So it's crazy how it changes everything. So you don't know what it's going to happen, even if you go back. It's not, it's actually crazy to experience that when you play the game. I actually spoiled that, I guess, but but it's actually crazy when you experience all of this and you see how everything, all these timelines and everything, and you need to experience every of them, all the bad endings, all the good semi endings, and to know the truth, and you explore every of them, because with every timeline you find new information about the real truth about everything, and then you go to the real ending and you uncover everything, and you're like, that's crazy. Like the story is like, it blows your mind, and the fact that you can go to all these timelines and play the game while in the way you want, because there is no correct way, right? You just keep choosing options and you go back. Then you play the way you want, and all the dialogues changes because of that. And that's something that I find actually crazy about this game. And the puzzles are amazing. The story is really good, and it's really enjoyable. Even the voice acting is really good. So it's a game that's kind of visual novel, but at the same time it's not, because you have like all this puzzle, all this interaction. So, but you can, for example, you can walk in the areas, except for the puzzles. You can walk in the area, so it's kind of visual novel, right? But it's really really cool. I love the game, and there is a game also for the made by the same company that it's actually really good that I played like it's the last game I played of them. It's actually called, quite funny because it has like a similar name to my game. It's actually AI, the Somnium Files. That game is really good too. It's the same thing going on, same timeline thing going on, and it's more like a detective thing. Like the first one is more like an escape room, like the Zero Escape game, as the name said, it's like more like escape. It's like escape room, right? And the other one, like the AI, the Somnium Files, is more like a detective thing. So you have all these puzzles, but instead of escaping these puzzles, you actually go inside the mind of the people, because you are kind of like a detective and you're trying to resolve a crime, right? And you go inside the people and with a machine, right? And you actually experience everything in the dreams. So you actually go inside the dreams of the people, and you have different options, like multiple options, and you try to play the dream. Like you can actually walk in the dream, and everything is super weird, and the things that you do are like, it's like a dream, so obviously it's not real. Everything that happens is not realistic. So probably if you see wine and you decide to drink the wine, something is going to happen. It's going a giant cat is going to fall to the sky or something like that. It's pretty weird, but it actually has something unique and something beautiful. And And again, depending on the options you choose in the dream, you unlock different timelines, right? So it's a similar way of working, but it's just different in the way of the story and the mechanic. Instead of puzzle, it's more like a dream thing, and and you can explore all these dreams and all these characters to uncover the real crime, to uncover the crime is seeing how what happened, right? Because that way you can uncover, like, if you put like a suspicious person in this machine, you can explore what is going on through their minds and try to understand what is going on. And it's really good. Like, also, like, I said it's a visual novel, but it's like a 3D visual novel. It's not like a 2D. It's like pretty weird, but it's really good. It's also like that game is also really good. Same company, and and it's really amazing too. I really love that company. I really love that company actually. And and there is a sequel of the AI the Somnium Files. There's like a sequel now. I didn't play the sequel. I don't have time, but yeah, it's there. I played the first one, was amazing. Like, the story was actually, I was actually impressed by the story. I didn't expect anything. Uh, really mind blowing. And same with the Zero Escape. So those two games are really good, especially for visual novel fans and Danganronpa fans and puzzle guys. Really cool. And even for people who are not like that, for example, like me, it's also really cool. So yeah, I guess those are my recommendations and my you know my the things that I think that doesn't have enough credit. Yeah, I think that's it.
Well, thank you for those recommendations. I think a lot of people, would probably be happy to hear that Gravity Rush is getting some more love because I do know that it had, I played the first one for a bit. I need to get back to them at some point. But I
Yeah,
know that a lot of people, um, you know, it has a cult following, so to say. And I know that the Trails series, a friend of mine tried to explain it to me ages ago, and similar to what you were saying, about how it takes place all over the place and generational or not generational, but like years later,
yeah.
and everything. So, thank you for those recommendations and making people aware, throwing that out there so that people that might not be aware know about these and, can actually look at them to see if they are
Yeah,
something that would be into their interests. Now, Ace, I don't want to keep you for too much longer. However, if you do have some time, I'm wondering if I can bug you for one more question.
yeah. I have time. Don't worry.
Awesome, awesome. So, Ace, outside of games, what is it that you enjoy doing and what do you do to relax? And I understand that, in a lot of cases, for people related to the industry, games really kind of is their what they do to relax.
Yeah,
And that is a perfectly valid question. But no, I like to ask as well, is there anything else that you enjoy doing that helps you relax outside of, in your life?
yeah. I mean, nowadays it's really hard to say that I'm relaxing. Like, I don't actually relax myself nowadays. Like, because I'm doing like this game, like Aikode is really big. So obviously I I don't usually have time to relax and do something else. Like, um, I remember when I was playing games, like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? I had a lot of free time, right? I had a lot of free time. I had like this relationship. I had my friends. I had like my games. I had a lot of things to go. I have a lot of things. But right now, it's really difficult to balance everything, right? I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm saying it's really difficult to balance. So obviously, if I want to make this game, I don't have the time to relax a lot. Like, I don't feel good when I relax nowadays because I want to finish the game as soon as possible. So sadly, I can relax. I'm not saying it's good. I obviously know that it's not a good idea to do this, but it's just I have the passion to finish this and I want to finish it. And obviously, when I finish this, everything is going to be a bit different, right? My plans for future games are actually having like a team and with money, obviously this time with funding, having a team and being able to relax and do other stuff, right? So nowadays, yeah, I don't relax. And a thing that I do that it's not relaxing, but it's another thing that I do at the same time. So basically, I nowadays I don't play games because I don't have time to play games. But I watch a lot of movies and TV shows, right? Uh, and it's like, how do you have time to watch movies and TV shows, right? It's like it doesn't make sense. Well, actually, what I do is well, while I working, I have like two screens. So I actually have three screens, but to explain this, I have two screens, right? And in one screen, I have the game, like when I'm working, I have Unreal Engine or Blender or whatever. And in the other screen, I have, I have um, like Netflix or whatever I have there, like a movie or a TV show or something. And I actually watch the two things at the same time in a way. It's at first was kind of confusing, but nowadays it's like something that I do almost every day, and it's something that I can do, and it's like something that it's really easy for me, like watching and do working while I watch something, and it actually has a lot of. I actually did do this for two things because I enjoy watching things and keeping like I love being updated with everything. I love watching new stuff in the industry. That's the first option. That's the first thing, and the second thing is actually I've been learning while I'm watching these things basically because you know I love doing cutscenes, right? And that's something you notice in my work, right? So watching TV shows and movies and things like this give me like this because I also watch like old movies, new movies. I watch everything I can, like even really really old movies. I try to watch everything, right? And the best way to improve your cutscenes is not by watching cutscenes in games, because normally cutscenes in games are really bad, or sometimes are good, but most of the time are really, really bad. So you don't want to take inspiration from that. You want to take inspiration from the cool thing, from movies, from TV shows, from even from anime. You want to, have that inspiration because that's like the main reason of movies, like the shots and the cinematography and everything is done in that way for some reason. And in games, they usually ignore all of that. So watching all these things, I actually, improve in a way because I'm watching all these shows and movies, and I'm watching like the shots and everything. I'm watching the cameras, right? I'm watching the angles. I'm watching everything. Even the post production, right? I'm watching everything in there. And I'm like, in a way, I'm at I'm recording all of that in my head in a way, right? I'm grabbing all this information and applying all of that in my cutscenes, right? I'm applying all of that information, all the things that I've learned watching these things in my cutscenes, and that's something at the same time it's something that I enjoy and something that I learned. So it's you know cool things to. It's something that it's really cool to do because obviously I'm doing two things at the same time, so that's really cool. And I guess I'm not relaxing because I'm working while I'm doing that, but it's kind of like, I guess, a relaxing moment. I don't know how to define it, but yeah, it's like I'm I'm watching something that is not like games or gaming, but I'm doing gaming at the same time. I'm working on game dev at the same time, right? So apart from that, I don't really have like nowadays a relaxing time, except sometimes I maybe one day every week or 2 weeks. Maybe I'll talk with some friends in Discord, right? And try to relax a bit. 2 hours, 3 hours. But even sometimes I'm working while talking to them. So, you know, it's like most of the time I'm always working. So I don't take time to relax. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but in my case, I needed to do it like this. Obviously, in the future, I plan to have more things to do. You know, with the team and everything, I plan to balance everything a bit better. But for now, I need to do that sacrifice, I guess, and work like almost 15 hours a day on this and not relaxing. And I guess my relaxing time is when I go to sleep and I dream. That's my relaxing time. And sometimes not even that, because sometimes I dream about my game. So it's kind of crazy, right? The obsession is a bit like, yeah, not good. But uh, I don't have time to relax. So yeah, I can, at least for now, right? I know how to relax, but if I started to relax, like imagine I started to play other games or meeting with some friends outside like every day or something like that. If I started to doing that, the game won't come out anytime soon. Like the game will be like 10 years and the game won't be released in 10 years, and it's crazy. I don't want that, right? I want to release the game as soon as possible. I want to finish this as soon as possible to keep working on other things, and the best way is actually working and not relaxing. Anyway, I don't feel sad or something like that. I mean, in terms of health, I'm pretty okay. Like even in terms of physical health, not only mental, but in terms of physical health, I'm actually okay because I do some analytics and things. So obviously, I know my body is okay and I eat healthy. I move a bit every day, right? I try to keep moving, not only staying in the chair all the time, but it's more like 31 hour a day. So just 1 hour, and it's not relaxing because I'm doing something that is not relaxing. Obviously, it's more like you know you're moving. It's not relaxing in a way, right? So if we are talking about sitting in a couch, watching something in the couch, doing nothing, or playing with the Switch in my bed, no, I don't do that anymore, sadly. But it's something. It's a sacrifice, right?
Yeah, and I completely understand what you're saying, and I guess Ace, the only thing I can say to that is I hope at some point things calm down enough for you that you are able to actually find and do the things that help you relax, so
Yeah,
you
I
can
hope
actually,
to.
relax again, right?
Yeah, I hope so too.
Now, Ace, as I said, usually well, for you it's a little later, so I guess in this case I can say this in this way. Um, Now, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to let you, get on with your evening. In this case, usually I would say something like, maybe, give you time to relax or wind down. Um, Maybe in
Yeah.
your case, since the time difference, prepare for bed so you can relax that way, I guess. I don't know. However, if there was anything else you wanted to discuss, a cool game, what you're doing, something that you feel more people should be aware of, by all means, the floor is all yours. As well,
I mean,
please let everyone know where they can find more information about you, and I'll also include that in the episode description for you.
oh well, yeah. I mean, I think I don't have anything. I mean, I could talk about a lot of things, but I think I said a lot of things, so I don't. I mean, I have time, but I don't think I'm going to spend like here like 2 hours or something. So yeah, it's like I think it's okay, right? Um, I guess well, finding the game is pretty easy. I mean, you can put like Aikode game, AI code if you prefer with K. Not it's written badly, like yeah, it's some misspelled, but it's done like that way because it's story reasons, right? But yeah, basically iCode game everywhere. So if you go to Twitter, put iCode game, you find the game. If you go to Instagram, iCode game, you find the game. If you go to TikTok, same thing. It's the same name in every socials except for YouTube. That's just iCode. But it's easy. It's pretty easy to find. It's like I didn't complicate things too much, so I guess pretty easy to find everything. And yeah, it was. I mean, I think I said everything in terms of what I like, what I don't like, what the things that I think that doesn't have enough credit. I think that yeah, I think I said a lot of stuff that I don't usually talk about, right? So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But if you have any other questions, I'm open to that.
Well, Ace, as I said, I do want to let you get on with your evening. I don't want to keep you too long, and
Yeah,
I
sure.
do really want to let you try and relax in some way, shape, or form because I think that's important because uh, burning out is I'd be worried about you burning out, and that's a statement for everyone. Burning out's never a
Yeah,
fun thing. So even
for
if
sure.
it's just relaxing a little, where you do put something on or what have you. I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, I can't tell you what to do, but I would definitely encourage you to maybe, relax a little instead of pulling a 15-hour day. Maybe pull a 14-hour day or something.
It's something that also is like it's something that it's become like an habit, I guess, and it's been something that I've been doing like for a lot of years. It's not just a couple of months, so it's something that in a way I don't feel burned out, right? And I don't think it's going to happen to me. So I'm not saying this should be like what everyone should be doing because I know it's not. Because most people will be burned out for like right now if they were me. But I guess there is something in my mind that works differently. I guess, and I feel joy while working, and I feel relaxed. I guess so. I don't feel bored now most of the time. It's certain that I would like to, take some time to relax and play some games that I've been out lately. For example, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's a game I want to play, but I don't have the time. I really love the saga of Xenoblade Chronicles, but I don't have the time to play a game that long. So hopefully, when I finish the game, I will have time to, play all these games and all these things that I want to play right now, and I can't. I mean, I could, but the problem is if I do that, I will keep doing it. Like it becomes an habit, and then it's really hard to return to work because that actually happened to me like 3 years ago. I decided to relax, and then I decided to relax more, play more things, and in the end, when I decided to go back to work, everything was feeling like so heavy. It was really hard to get back to work in the way I was working, right? So in my experience, I don't feel like I'm going to get like burnout because of this. I'm not saying this like a good idea for anyone to follow. Like I'm not an example to follow. Definitely not. But for me, it works, right? And I don't feel like bad in any way. I actually don't feel like in mental. If we talk about mentally, like health, like mental health, I feel really fine or good compared to when I wasn't working that much. I actually feel like motivated every day. I don't know why, but I feel like happy, right? And which is weird because most of the people when they work a lot, they feel like bad emotions. When they keep working for a lot of years, normally they feel like, as you said, burnout, or they feel like bad or something is not working. But for me, I guess it's not happening. I mean, maybe one day I feel like sad or something like that, right? But that's pretty normal. We are human, right? So in a way, I think, yeah, most of the time I feel like quite happy and quite motivated and quite, you know, I feel better compared to other days. But I still want to relax, right? I want to play games and do things that I want to do, meet with some friends, and relax. Even have a relationship because right now I don't have a relationship, right? And in the past I had a lot of relationships, but right now I don't have time for that. I know I don't have time, so I don't want to waste anyone's time. So I'm like, for now I will work. I'm going to work in my game, and when I finish this, I will have more time. So that's, but I don't feel bad because of that, right? I don't feel bad. My health is good in terms of physical health and mental health. Everything is good. So I don't think anyone should worry about me, at least for now. Um, but yeah, it's just, at least for now, I feel motivated, and it's been a lot of years. So yeah, I think I'm not gonna get burned out. I think that's what I think.
Well, I know obviously the other side of that coin is, I can't speak for you. So,
Yeah,
I 100% I understand what you're saying. At the end of the day,
yeah,
I guess the thing to say would be I would trust you to know yourself well. I would trust everyone to know their self well enough.
yeah.
I don't want to make this sound like I'm trying to harp on you. It's more of just a general
No,
thing,
no,
and
no. I
I'm
don't feel
always
like that.
concerned. But
I mean,
it's
the
I think
recommendation. You're right. You're right. I mean, the recommendation is like, try to find a good balance of working and having like having a
exactly.
balance in between. I'm totally agreeing with you on that. It's like for everyone else, like don't be like me. That's my best recommendation that I can say. But I guess because I'm young and I'm like, I don't know why, but I guess in my case I don't feel like mm, you know, at least for now. I'm not saying that I'm going to be like this for all my life because it's not. I know that it's going to be just because of. I just want to be like this for this game. When I finish this game, everything is going to be pretty different, and I know that because I don't really like a lot of the experiences while working on this game. So I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world, but I know I need to do this for this game, and if I continue them with the sequels and other games, I will do it differently, right? I will try to balance everything more, having a team, and do everything a bit more. I'm not gonna say healthy, but I will say more normal way because it's more healthy too. But as I said, I don't feel bad, right? But I guess in a more general meaning, it's more healthy trying to find the balance between right relaxing yourself, having friends, and having social life, and having work, and then try to balance everything in a correct way. That's why I recommend to everyone. But yeah, in my case, at least for now, this is what I need to do, and then everything will change. But I'm not saying anyone should, like, I'm not an example. I'm not an example to follow, and anyone, like, yeah, just be, don't do what I do. that's my last my last thing. My last tip is that don't do what I do. It's not a good example. It works because I am what I am, but it's not good for everyone. Definitely, it's like I'm weird, right? It's like something that works for me. My body is built differently. My mind is built. Not everyone should follow that my example. That's something that I want to make clear every time. Like this works because it's me, and maybe some other people have that same, thing that can do the same thing as me, for example, right? And don't feel like bad or burn out or don't feel like anxious or something like that. But in the end, it also depends on the type of person we are talking about. It depends on a lot of factors. And definitely, the best thing to do is having, like, a healthy lifestyle in all the ways, trying to find the balance, relaxing a bit. But it depends a lot in the factors that in your life and what you're trying to achieve, right? A lot of people, when they started doing great things or big things, they actually had this obsession, right? And they work it every day. Something pretty, typical when you do a big project. It's something that it happens a lot. I guess the difficult thing is just trying to, don't let your mind destroy you, basically. If you do this, if you decide to do this, then be strong in a way, be strong in a mental way, right? If you decide to do this, if you decide to go ahead and deny, I don't care, I'm going to work like you 14, 15 hours a day, I'm not going to relax. If you decide to do this, okay. If you decide this, yeah, keep in mind that you need to be strong, right, in a way, and don't, if you don't want to burn out and basically destroy yourself completely, definitely you need to be a bit strong in, and I'm not talking about physique here, I'm talking more about, mental health, right? So you need to be strong in that part. But yeah, I don't recommend this to anyone. If just to be clear, I recommend what you are saying, right? Like the relaxing and trying to find balance. I think that's the best way. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it sounds like you know yourself, and I trust you
Yeah,
on that, just like I would say I would trust everyone. And I also hope for the future that you know you're able to um, you're not having to carry everything on your own shoulders for the project
yeah,
and future projects, because
yeah,
it's nice to be able to, like you said, it's nice to be able to make plans to go hang out with friends, to to do
exactly.
other things that you enjoy, right? And I
And I
wish the
miss that.
best of luck for you for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Ace, as I did say, I don't want to keep you too much longer, so if there wasn't anything
Yeah,
else, I will definitely let you get on with your evening and find some form to wind down. Maybe not relax, but at least wind down for the evening.
yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Ace, the pleasure was all mine. I thank you. A huge thank you to you making the time for me, especially with the time difference. But yeah, I very much appreciate you making the time and agreeing to talk with me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. But it's been a pleasure. So yeah.
Well, wonderful. As I said, the pleasure was all mine. So thank you again so much. So,
Okay.
so thanks again, Ace, for making the time to have this
Thanks.
conversation with me, and thank you
Thanks
for
to you.
joining
Yeah.
us on the Red Tunic podcast, as well as a special thanks to Ronald Jenkins for the use of the music from the title track from Road Deep. And if you like this podcast and want to support it and help it grow, please subscribe or follow me on Twitter at Red Tunic Podcast to receive the latest episodes and news, and be sure to share with those you think might also enjoy it. Thanks. Until next time.